the overfunding allows that money also to go directly to cash. So for instance, if you put $1 into a PUA rider, it's not only going to go directly to cash value, but you're going to see your death benefit increase by $4. And so it has a multiplicative effect on the death benefit.
Money can be complicated. Let a nerd help you. We're here to demystify the complex nature of money by getting you answers from financial nerds and whiz kids. Welcome to Ask the Money Nerds, a weekly segment of the Wealth Labs podcast where we answer your most pressing money questions.
On Ask the Money Nerds, we got a question from a guy named Ryan, who is one of the most diligent savers that I've ever seen ask a question. So if you're wondering what to do with your money, where should you allocate it? Is cash value a good place for it? When does that make sense? When doesn't it make sense? And actually, Stelba's probably going to sneak another question, and I know how she goes. How you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. Dale, how are you?
It's a beautiful day.
All right. We have a question. It's about whole life insurance again. But
How long were you a cheerleader?
4 years.
4 years. Mm-hmm. Junior high, high school?
High school. And I was also on the dance team in junior high.
Can you still do the splits is the question.
I can do the splits.
Wow. So can my mom. My mom's 68 years old. The other day I was over at her house.
And she did the splits?
And she just pops down and did a split
I can't
like
do
she
them.
was 20.
I can't do them.
I can go down like a V shape.
But that's impressive.
Yeah, I can sit down.
I know, right?
Oh, props to you. Fist pump to being able to sit
There you
down.
go.
I've always wished I could like tumble. Wouldn't that be cool to do like a standing backflip or something?
That would be.
Maybe that should be my goal for this new year.
It seems like you're going to hurt yourself.
I'm not as old as you. I'm still spry. And
Okay. I know I'd hurt myself trying to do a backflip, so I'm not trying.
I'm not going to do it. It's not
maybe
happening.
that's going to be my fun goal for this next year. Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Let's dive into Ryan's question. Back to the whole life insurance policy. We're going to...
we brought Dell on for a reason. He knows this whole life thing.
Yes, you are the guru, the expert. You know the ins and outs of all of these
I'm no cheerleader,
plans.
so that's not why you brought me on
Dale,
here.
yes, you are. You're a cheerleader for whole life policies.
Oh, that is true.
That's true.
So we're going to give them some different information, and it's coming from Ryan's question today. He says, hey, guys, I'm looking to open up a whole life insurance policy and want to know how to get it structured properly for me and my goals. I want to use this as a bank account and leverage for my future real estate investments. I currently have $20,000 in savings and make about $3,000 a month and save about $1,000 to $1,800 per month after my expenses. How much should I be putting into this policy?
First off, this dude is saving some serious cash compared to his income.
I know, I'm amazed.
50-50? Wow.
Yeah, at $3,000 a month. Like it's one thing when you're at 100, a year to save $50,000, but when you're saving $18,000 and making 36, that's insane. That's impressive.
Very
Right.
impressive.
Is he living off of peanut butter and Miracle Whip sandwiches?
You might be a conservative, Ryan, if.
Okay, so let's dive into this. So how does he go about structuring his policy properly? And I know this is a question that a lot of people have because you look at the contract and it feels overwhelming. And how do I know that it's detailing exactly what I have, what I need, and it's outlined properly? So give him some bullet points, Dale.
Well, first off, Ryan, I'm really impressed that you're excited and ready to set up a policy. This is, it's what it's been for me, and Garrett says this all the time, but it's been the only strategy that I've ever invested in or put money in that has never failed, in me and my life. So it's been phenomenal. Designing the policy is really critical, and there are a bunch of features and benefits and riders that you can add to the policy to design it properly. So Ryan, what I would suggest you do is that you kind of take some notes on, different strategies that you can do to, design this properly. I'm going to list off probably 5 or 6 different riders that we'd want to have you add to this policy. Some of them are critical and some of them are a little bit less important, but still, valuable. The first thing is that I want you to make sure that this is a whole life insurance policy, that it's not universal life or a variant in index universal life. It's not term insurance. You'd be surprised how many people I talk to that don't know the difference between term insurance and whole life insurance. And so making sure it's whole life insurance. Number 2, we want to add a rider to the policy called the PUA, oftentimes flexible paid up riders or accelerated permanent paid up additions riders. They're all basically, in a nutshell, a way of buying additional blocks of coverage, but the overfunding allows that money also to go directly to cash. So for instance, if you put $1 into a PUA rider, it's not only going to go directly to cash value, but you're going to see your death benefit increase by $4. And so it has a multiplicative effect on the death benefit.
Wow.
So PUA riders
That
really
seems like
important.
a no-brainer. Why would someone not add that?
I mean, the agent doesn't want to add it because
The agent doesn't get paid enough commission.
right.
Oh,
So that's it.
okay.
So paid up additions rider. Another rider that I'll oftentimes add is a term rider. And there are traditional term riders where you just have plain Jane term life insurance added to the whole life that gets more and more expensive every year as you own the policy. And there's other riders that allow for, automatic converting. So every time you pay the term rider premium, not only does the majority of that money go to cash value, but it also converts that term insurance to whole life. And we like to design it where you have the term insurance converted within 5 to 10 years at maximum. And so having a term rider increases the amount that you can overfund. That MEC limit we've talked about before. It allows us, to get to that limit, but it also allows for conversion of all that term to whole life. So term rider, paid up additions rider, 2 key riders you want to add to the policy. A third one is called the waiver of premium, and this is a disability rider. Now, if you get into a position where you become permanently disabled and you're not able to pay the premiums, well, the insurance company will pay them for you. And depending on the company, they'll actually pay them all the way until you get better or until you die. I had an example of a guy that I sold a policy to about 3 years ago. He bought a $5 million term policy, cost him about $500 a month. Earlier this year in March, he got in an accident with a semi-truck, and he didn't win the battle. Now, he didn't die, but he became permanently disabled, just completely destroyed his spinal column.
That's so
And
unfortunate.
he was an orthodontist making over, it was 7 figures a year. So really impacted his, ability to save. And so what he did is he called up the insurance company, and because he had the waiver of premium, he was able to have the insurance company, in this case it was Mass Mutual, pay the premiums for him. Now, it gets better. The company also allowed for him to convert that policy from term to whole life. Now, $5 million of term was about $500 a month on him. $5 million of whole life, $122,000 a year. Huge difference. He converted that policy to whole life, and the company is paying those premiums for him for the rest of his life after the disability. So really, really important rider. If you're under the age of 65, you can add it to the policy. I usually recommend it, until people get up into their late 50s. So that's another rider we want to add.
Okay.
And then there's a long-term care rider. And there's plain Jane, kind of accelerated death benefit riders where you can accelerate up to like 50% of the death benefit if you, have some sort of a terminal illness.
Is there any additional charge to the accelerated benefit?
There's none.
None.
No.
Okay.
So the ADB is at no cost with most companies.
So is there an extra fee for each rider that you add outside of that one?
The majority of the
waiver
riders,
premium, yes.
Yeah, the waiver, the paid up additions, yes. The term rider, yes. The long-term care rider. So there's a few companies out there that offer a long-term care access rider. And what it allows you to do is instead of accelerating 50% of the death benefit, you can accelerate up to 90% of the death benefit while you're alive. So you could buy a policy, $1 million whole life policy, and then you end up in have an accident or, have some weird illness hit you and be completely disabled. You can't perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living. And the insurance company will allow you to accelerate up to 90% of the death benefit to cover if you need long-term care, if you need, in-home, health care, whatever it is, they'll cover that up to, 90%.
Wow.
So that's another rider I add to a lot of the policies that I'll design. So there's just, in a nutshell, about 5.
And so what I have for Ryan is he's saving such a high percentage of his income.
Yeah, he's very disciplined.
I think that part of that should go right back into investing into his skill sets and expanding his means and increasing the value that he offers to increase his income overall. Some of it to build up just his liquidity, just having enough savings set aside to handle whatever life might throw at us or as an opportunity fund. And so, he's going to be limited to how much he can do into life insurance based upon a number against his income. So they might say, hey, at an income of $36,000 a year, they might say, we'll give you $720,000 of death benefit. And so that $720,000 of death benefit will determine how much paid up additions he can do to max fund that without losing the tax advantage. And, you know, if that was something like $500 a month, that's probably the top end I would consider.
Right.
Because at $3,000 a month, even though he's aggressive at saving $1,000 to $1,800 per month of that $3,000, think quality of life, think increasing your means, think investing in yourself, think what you can do to serve more people and solve bigger problems, and then take this consideration of doing some cash value.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And just for those who are looking at guidelines or rules, a lot of the insurance companies will allow you to put up to 25% of your income into premium. And so it's a little bit more than $500 a month, but I wouldn't recommend it. Based on the income, you know, making $3,000 a month, I think $400 or $500 a month is probably top.
That's really high.
And that's really like 12% of his income or 14%.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go much higher than that.
Okay. In a state where income is very fluid right now, I mean, it always is, but it's very unpredictable in some ways with the state of society right now. How, if someone wanted to go and get a whole life insurance policy, but their income is so different than it was last year, and they don't know how to predict what it's going to be in the next 12 months, how do they go about structuring a policy where they don't feel like they're overwhelmed by the payment?
Right. So the paid up additions rider that we were talking about, there are some companies that offer very, very flexible riders where you can put in a minimum of $300 a year or up to like 2 to 3 times what the base premium is. So
range.
So, you know, I have some policies that I can put $10,000 a year in, and that would be my base premium. But with the paid up additions, I can put in up to 50. And so there's 40,000 of that, you know, 50,000 that goes straight to paid up. But if I needed to ever, you know, kind of back it off a little bit, I could just pay the 10.
Okay.
All right.
I have a question that I'm going to throw in here. It's from Megan. She says, is an overfunded whole life policy appropriate for a single person with no dependents? So she's a W-2 employee who doesn't own real estate. Is this policy good for us single folks?
It depends. I mean, I bought my first policy when I was single. You know, the death benefit could always go to other family members that you care about. It could go to charities that you find are important, or who knows, maybe one day you get married, Stolba. you think, fingers crossed, as long as it's the right person.
Right. No, I'm happy.
And then you wouldn't be able to spend as much time on Ask the Money Nerds. You know, we got to be, it's very, very calculated here now.
He's keeping me single so I don't go anywhere for Ask the Money Nerds. At least.
So it just really depends. I mean, I go to cashflowbanking.com and have a personal conversation to really determine, you know, if you have loans that need to be paid off and what other opportunities you have. But as a place to, you know, if it's funded properly as a stable place to store money, I think it's a really great idea.
Yeah. My only comment on top of that was, you know, when I set up my first policy, I was 33 years old. And I was married and I had a couple kids at that point. And I wish I would have set it up when I was younger, when I was single, because one of my primary objectives for my policies was to help create a supplemental stream of income, you know, throughout my life, and also for the ability for leverage and utilization. So if I wanted to, you know, buy real estate, you know, I can pull out money to make a down payment on real estate, or if I wanted to, you know, finance a car, I could do it that way. If I needed to draw down streams of income, you know, when I get late, you know, in my later years, I can do that. So I wish I would have, but I get the rationale. I mean, if you're not married, you don't have kids. I mean, there's the death benefit is maybe less important at that point.
Right. Well, Stolba, thanks for throwing an extra question in there.
Of course.
You could always look at the book, billionairesmethod.com, for a few bucks, and even listen to the audio version of it. And I think that'd be helpful with this question as well. So you now know how to turn your thoughts into profits, especially if you're someone that's saving quite a bit of money and not quite sure what to do with it. This is Garrett Gunderson signing off for Ask the Money Nerds. Remember, build the life you love.